Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. Well, I'm very, very excited and grateful for life to be with you here this morning as we are going to be taking another fresh new look at the financial market. Well, the last 24 hours has been of mixed reaction across the assets we have been monitoring so far this week, where we can see significantly well that the US dollar has gained some positive tractions in the last 24 to 36 hours. And the reason why this is simply because of the risk-averse sentiment in the market right now, where majority are not sure if the US recession is going to be on board or not. But one thing for sure here is that the economic data we are going to be looking forward to in the remainder part of the week is going to be giving us a clear insight into what is likely going to be happening. So we are going to be taking a technical perspective into the current market structure, and in fact, in preparation for today's trading session, I have conducted a comprehensive price action based technical analysis using parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and of course chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of all of these assets on our watch list. And in fact, I'm very excited to share with you one of the insightful ideas I have based on the structures. Though for those who are with me on both my TradingView and Telegram platform, you will definitely have gotten an update on that one. Let's get ourselves prepared for yet another insightful session. And for those who are joining us for the first time, you are highly welcome on board, and I'm very, very grateful to have you guys around. Now, you might be asking, what is it that we do here? Well, we come together here as technical traders in anticipation of both the London and the New York session, where we review our existing positions if we have any, see how we manage those positions, while we also strategically position ourselves ahead of both the London and the New York session. So this happens on a daily basis. The live stream starts technically 8:05 a.m. UTC on a daily basis. And in fact, I encourage you to stay tuned in and of course be part of the subsequent edition, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how the strategy works, and at the same time eventually use the information you have gathered here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, you are highly welcome on board. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the business for today. And as usual, you know how we do it in this community. The first thing we want to be doing is to keep tabs with the fundamental factors in the market. And of course, you all know by now that these fundamental factors often manifest on the chart in technical patterns and price movement. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can easily identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns, hereby giving us valuable information that can make us position ourselves ahead of this event, during and even after the event. So we normally focus on high impact events from economies that will be affecting the assets on our watch list, and for this week it includes the US economy, the United Kingdom, and of course the Japanese economy. So for today, Wednesday, September 6th, we have two high impact events to look out for, which are coming in from both the United Kingdom and the United States. The first one here is the Bank of England monetary policy report hearing, and well, this is the Treasury Committee is appointed by the House of Commons to examine the expenditure, administration, and policy of HM Treasury, Revenue, and Customs, and associated public bodies, including the Bank of England and the Financial Services Authority. So this is more of a report giving us an insight into the monetary policy of the United Kingdom, and of course giving us an insight into the health situation of the United Kingdom's economy. And of course, one thing about this event is that majority in the market will be looking forward to this event to see how to position ourselves for the rest of the week. And you all know by now that the pound sterling, despite the positive GDP data and of course interest rate hike, we still continue to see a nosedive in price, which of course we took advantage of. But we are going to be deliberating on the new current market structure and looking at how the market participants will be anticipating this event to help give us an insight on what our next line of action will be. Then the next one here is the ISM Services PMI. That is coming in from the United States Economic Docket. And for those who don't know what the ISM Services PMI is, this is the Institute of Supply Management Services Purchasing Managers Index, and it is a monthly economic indicator that measures the health and activity level of the services sector in the United States, hereby providing a valuable insight into the overall state of the service-based industries. And of course, generally speaking, a high reading from this data is considered to be positive and buoyancy for the US economy, while a low data is considered as negative. Now, if we look at the previous data here, it came in at 52.7, and then economists are projecting a 52.5. So from what the economists are projecting here, it shows that there's going to be a little bit deep in data compared to the previous month. So we're still going to be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be like. Will it be just as expected, below expectation, or even beyond expectation? So as technical traders, what we are going to be doing right now is to dive right into the chart and look at the current market structure from a technical standpoint. And of course, we all know by now that even the anticipation of this macroeconomic event always has its own influence on the market trend, of course. So we are going to be sniffing through the current market structure to identify patterns and structures that we can use to guide our trading activity for today. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the chart. Now, before we dive right into, before we begin, I would like to know in the comment section if you can hear me clearly and the video is quite all right. Your feedbacks are really appreciated here. So please let me know in the comment section if everything is fine. And if it's not, I will be doing the necessary adjustment to make our experience better out here. So I see a couple of comments here. In fact, a handful of comments. I see you, Tyson Brian. Good morning to you. Mbuso Sierra, thank you very much for checking in. Knowledge Center 13, good morning. Thank you very much. Princess Abulokwe, good morning to you too. Hotiraf, Richard Blackett, you guys are very, very wonderful, and thank you for the support so far. All right, so with that being said here, I still have with the feedback as regards to the quality of the audio visuals. Please, it is very necessary, and it also gives me that sense of involvement that we are all involved in this together. Thank you very much as you do so. So with that being said, let's start with our first financial asset for today. So the first asset we are going to be looking at today is going to be the GBPUSD. And in fact, if you have noticed this pair in the last couple of weeks, you will see that it has been more or less of a consolidative phase. Though we had some little traction in between that area, but 90% of the time price action has been caught within a range bound, which further gives us an insight into the uncertainty that prevails this market. And of course, I know that there's going to be a lot of fundamental factors behind the scenes that is also making this seems this way, as you've seen here. Remember, the course of this week, we have bought at some point and we have also sold at some point, and on both instances, price didn't really move significantly well. So before we go into the details of what it's going to be looking like today, let's run through how the week started for us here on the GBPUSD. Now, for those who are joining us for the first time, we normally focus on the 1 hour time frame here during the Forex Morning Mastery with Sheriff Daramola. So if you do want to have a background knowledge of how we got to this point, then I would advise you to watch our first video on the Forex Morning Mastery for this week to have an insight, because we were able to do a top-down analysis of this current market structure from the higher time frame. So with that being said here, let's dive right in. So at the beginning of the week, remember that we had our key level situated at the 1.2600 area. And of course, if you have been with me in this community for a while now, you know how important our key level is and of course how we use them. Now, if price breaks out of our key level, we want to be looking out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying that asset. And not unless price breaks down the key level can we start considering selling the asset. Now, look at what happened at the beginning of this week. We saw how price was initially consolidating between the key level and of course the 1.25850 level, giving us an insight into the level of indecision at that point in time. But the fact that that level, that support line was not broken since last week Friday was a sign that we might likely be seeing a bullish move. And of course, when price finally broke out and retested our key level, it was a good opportunity to buy, which we of course were bought at that point. And during our live session on that day, I was talking about a potential that for those who had missed out on this breakout, we wait for a retest of structure to join an uptrend continuation, which actually was triggered, but unfortunately price did not move significantly well, and I'm very sure most of us will have been taken out in a loss on this one. But it's quite fine. The week was still very early and we were still anticipating more opportunities. And one of the things we deliberated on Monday was that if price at any point in time breaks down the 1.262, retest the structure, then there are higher chances that price will be going to the downside, especially after we consider that descending trend line, which has been supporting that bearish momentum in the last couple of weeks now. So that led into the idea of selling below the 1.26210 level, and in fact since Tuesday we have been selling this asset, and price really moved very well. As you can see, the first position alone went to as far as about 100 pips before the bullish momentum began. And remember that we had multiple levels on this asset. Remember, we sold at the breakdown of the 1.26 and of course the 1.25850 level. So we were able to recoup the loss we incurred at the beginning of the week, though price is back and we are snapped out of our sell position one more time with a modest size of profit. So you can see it has been a roller coaster of buys and sell this week, further emphasizing the indecision that prevails this market. Now, at this point in time, I have no position running right now. And what is it that will be our plans for today? What is it are we going to be looking at to guide our trading decisions for today's trading session? Now, our center of focus is going to be between this area, as you will see, between the 1.2850 level and the 1.25300 level. Now, the reason why this is very, very simple, you can see that the lowest point price action has gotten to this week is the 1.25300 area, and we saw buy pressure resume from that level. But the bullish pressure we saw here wasn't that significant, as you will see that sellers have continued to negate the potentials of these buyers around this area, and this tells us that buyers does not have the capacity right now to break out of that structure. As every point in time price gets into that level, we saw how sellers came in to negate the potentials of the buyers. Now, this tells us that this could be a retracement of that impulsive move, which probably must have ended, and this is dependent on what happened next. So we saw this impulsive move right into the structure, And all this buy pressure I see here may be considered to be a retracement. So now the question at this juncture is that as this retracement phase ended to incite a downtrend continuation, that is one scenario to this. And if we also consider the higher lows within the retracement phase, will this also lead to the breakout of the descending trend line to incite an uptrend continuation? So you can see how important the current structure we are in right now is. So with this current scenario here, price is confined within a range. So what are we going to be looking out for to sell? Now, for me personally, selling the GBPUSD today, I would need price to break out and take out all the buy positions around the 1.253. Remember, that is the lowest point, and we saw how sellers struggled when price got into that area. So I would rather want to see price slice through this area, retest to structure, giving us good confirmation for us to join the downtrend continuation. However, if we look at the distance of where price action is right now, and that area, it's about 30 pips thereabout, which I wouldn't want to ignore that space and time. Now, if we are able to identify selling potential even before the breakdown of that support line here happens, then we should be getting ready to be part of that move so that we can maximize the potential of that bearish move. Now, in order to capitalize on that, we have a trend line that we can use to guide our trading activity, coupled with a level situated at the 1.256. Now, look at this right here. We have a trend line which projects the higher low in this market, giving us signs that buyers are gaining some momentum, but you can see that the momentum here isn't going anywhere, as we saw this rejection around this area. So we have a trend line to work with right now, and coupled with a trend line is this level at the 1.256, which has been a major determinant of price action in the last 24 hours. So what I'm going to be looking out for to sell, even before the breakdown of that support line happens here, here's a breakdown of both the 1.256 and that trend line. You can see how it shares a beautiful confluence with that structure. So if a breakdown happens, that will give me a sign that we might likely be seeing a trend continuation to the downside. But remember that we are not going to be getting too excited here, as we will need some confirmations to happen before we jump into that position. And of course, that would reflect on the chart as a retest of the structure, where continued selling pressure around that area will give us a comfort of joining that bearish move. So once the breakdown happens, we scale down into our lower time frame to look out for signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above that ascending trend line, and this would reflect on the chart as continued selling pressure below that structure. Then we can join, then at that point have a sell stop order below the 1.253 to maximize the potential of that bearish move. So this is how we are going to be preparing ourselves for a downtrend continuation, if that is where price action will be going for today. Now, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities, remember that we are not going to be ignoring the potentials of buyers too as well. And of course, we saw here that since price tested the 1.25300 area, we saw buy pressure resume, and in fact we saw higher lows in that regard. Now, if we are going to start considering buying from this current structure, then I will need to see price take out all the sell positions along the 1.25850. And if you look at this closely, it also shares a confluence with that descending trend line that we have here. So if we are going to be seeing a scenario such as, let me give a visual representation of what I want to be looking out here to buy the GBPUSD. So if price will break out the structure, something like this, breaks out and then comes back to do a retest, it could be below that area or around that area. But most importantly, we want to see buying pressure. It could come in the form of a double bottom structure to join that uptrend continuation. So what this simply means here is that we are going to be looking for buying opportunity only if price action breaks out of both the the 1.25850 level and that descending trend line. So that is the only condition here that will make us want to start considering buying the GBP USD today. But if price remains below the descending trend line, of course, we'll still maintain our bearish bias on this asset. So these are my views here on the GBP USD for today's trading session. And of course, if there is any new or significant evolution of price action come up along the line, I will definitely share them with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platform. So this is my view right here. You do want to be marking out these levels and trend line, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move on to the next financial assets on our watch list. All right, so I can see a handful of comments here and feedbacks. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you. Eric Mudavadi, Tyson Bryan, O.T. Raf, Richard Blackett. Thank you very much for those feedbacks. I feel at home right now that we are all on the same page here. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So we shall be moving right into the next financial assets on our watch list. Adeni Babalola, I see your comment. Thank you very much for checking in, and thank you for that, your feedback right there. I'm sorry, I know what you're about to say. I'm sorry, I'll make sure I get back to you today. Thank you very much. And in the absence of no questions, let's move right in to the next financial asset. So the next financial asset on our watch list for today is my favorite asset amongst what we have on our watch list, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the Goldspot. And in fact, we've been doing pretty well since the beginning of the week as we've continued to sell this asset as price action continues to find lower lows and lower highs. And in fact, for those of us who are part of the XAUUSD live monitoring window yesterday, I think we were able to scoop in about 90 pips thereabout before the end of that session anyways, and it appears price is still going in that direction as we have here. Now, for the sake of clarity, let's run through how the week started and what led into the idea of selling this asset despite the fact that the week started on a strong bullish note. Now let's run through what really happened at the first day of this week. Now the first thing we saw here at the beginning of the week was how price action started the week at around the $1,939.50 level, as you will see right here on our screen. Then we saw this bullish momentum. We saw a couple of engulfing bullish candles spring out of that zone to give us an insight of a potential uptrend scenario, which of course never happened, as we saw a strong barrier around the 1,946, where sellers continue to negate all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure, hereby bringing price back into that support zone. So as a result of this perspective, we had a flat channel to work with at the beginning of the week, and in fact this gave us an insight into the level of uncertainty at that point in time. And you all know how we do it in this community, especially when we have a flat range such as this one we have here. We exercise patience, waiting for either the breakout of the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, or the breakdown of the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. And as you will see on this chart, we saw our price action did break down the support line here to incite our first sell position for the week. And as you will see, since the breakdown of that support line, price action had continued to find lower lows and lower highs in this market. And in fact, we had the privilege of adding more positions to our existing trade. We had one right here yesterday, had the 1,935, and we also added one more, had the breakdown of the 1,926. So at this point in time, we should be having a minimum of 3 positions running in profit at this point. So if I take a look at how many pips that is in total, so the first position right here is running with about 150 pips in profit, while the second position here is running with about 105, and the third position is running with roughly about 17 pips in profit at this point in time. So we have over 200 pips in profit just for the first half of the week, which is not bad to kickstart the week with. And for those who are part of this profitable journey, well done to you. Kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this opportunity. Now you know how we do it. The next thing we want to be doing right now is to move our stop losses and secure this current sell position. Despite the strong bearish momentum, we cannot ignore that buyers could come into at any point in time. So let's ensure we secure our current sell position. And from the look of things right here, I'm of the opinion that anywhere above the 1,927 level and let's say the 1,931 area seems most appropriate to secure this current sell position. Remember that we do want to give enough room for price action to breathe, just in case we could have some retracement back into structure or into the descending trend line before the trend continuation happens. So now with a well secured position at this juncture, what is our next line of action for today? How are we going to continue selling the XAUUSD, or are we going to be getting ready for an opportunity to buy this asset? Now, before we go into the details here, I would like to share with you what my commentaries are as to how we are going to be managing the XAUUSD today. And for those who are with me on both my TradingView and Telegram platform, you will be aware of what we are looking at. So this is how we have been monitoring the XAUUSD since the beginning of this week. And this morning right here, I made mention that we should secure all sell positions as market participants turn their focus towards the upcoming ISM Services PMI, which is of course an high impact event, alongside secondary activity indicators and employment data for clues of a clear direction at this point. So with that being said, let's go back into the live chart. So right here on the 1 hour time frame, well, in preparation for today's trading session, there is one key significant parameter here that we want to be taking into consideration, and that is in fact the descending trend line, which buttresses and emphasizes the strength of the sellers in this market since last week Friday. And of course, we got this trend line as a result of the connection of the series of lower highs, as you will see here. So after connecting the series of lower highs, we have a descending trend line, and of course you know how we use our descending trend line in this community. As long as price remains below that descending trend line, we continue to look out for patterns and structures that support the idea of selling, and not unless the trend line is breached and broken to the upside can we start considering a momentum shift at this point in time. So with that knowledge in mind, let's relate that to the current structure. Now, looking at this area here, you will see that though price has been finding lower highs, as we just saw the breakdown of this point here at the 1,924 level. Now, with the scenario here, are we going to be having a situation where buy pressure will resume around this area to incite a move back into the trend line to incite a continued sell-off in this market? So these are things that we are going to be considering while we look at the structure. So if the buy pressure here persists, then we are likely going to wait and see if price will get to the trend line and then let's see how price will react to that structure. In fact, that trend line there, I want to mark that area so that we can have a confluence to work with. So we have it just right around the 1929 level. So we do want to be marking out that level on our chart. So for the sake of clarity, I will just adjust this one, and then let's label it the 1929 level. And you can see how beautifully it shares a confluence, and we get taken out of our sell position and price gets into the zone. We want to exercise patience and see how the market participant will be reacting to that confluence. Now, depending on what happens here, will determine what our next line of action will be. So if we begin to see selling pressure resume, hold on a second. All right, so if we begin to see selling pressure resume around this area, something like this, then we will be getting ready to sell. So this is a sign that buyers are finding it difficult to break out of that trend line. So it means the trend line is still strong enough to negate the bullish attempt. Then we join the bearish move to the downside. However, if price action goes on to break out of the 1929, then this will be the first time price will be breaking out of this trend line in the last 4 days. And if this happens, it will be a beautiful signal that we are likely going to be seeing a momentum shift. Now remember, we don't want to be getting too excited here, as we will need some confirmations to happen for us to jump into the position. Now, there are 2 ways to which we can capitalize on this move. Now, the first one is for those who are profitable so far this week on the XAUUSD. So for those who have been part of this profitable journey since the beginning of the week, we can afford to leverage on the profit we had made so far this week to test waters around that area. So if you're profitable, you can have your buy stop order simply sitting anywhere above the 1929 to look out for buying opportunity, and let's see if it clicks. If it doesn't click, then we know that we're still on the positive side of our portfolio, as we are risking sort of the profit we had made so far this week. So let's ensure we have our stop losses in place. Very, very important. We should be having a stop loss of about 35 to 40 pips thereabouts on this one if price action goes on to break out of that level. Now, for those who are joining us for the first time, and probably this is your first trade on the XAUUSD, that is, you are coming from a clean slate, then you want to wait for confirmations to happen before jumping into a position. And if you're a cautious trader, you might wait for confirmation to happen too as well. So we look out for the breakout of structure, scale down to our lower time frame. It could be the 5, 10 minutes or 15 minutes time frame. Then we look out for retest of structures, signs that sellers are finding it difficult to drop back below the descending trend line, and this would reflect on the chart as buying pressure to inside an uptrend continuation. Now we have multiple levels here that we can use to maximize the potential of that bullish move. So we have levels like the 1935 to add more position if price action goes on to break out, retest that structures, and we also have the $1939.50 level to maximize this move. So let's see how price will play out if it goes back into that area. So that is how we are going to be managing any breakout of the 1929 level here. Now, if price does not go that way and instead it continues to drop to the downside, well, personally, looking at the structure, after price broke down that lowest point here at the 1924 level, and price appeared to have come back to retest that structure, which for me is a confirmation that we might likely be seeing a downtrend continuation. So in that regard, having a sell stop order below the 1924 level seems most appropriate here. So since we already have a breakdown, as you will see, retest of structure, something like continued selling pressure around that area, then we would like to be part of the downtrend continuation right below the 1926 level. So this is how we are going to be managing our position right here on the XAUUSD. So I was able to share with us what to look out for to buy the XAUUSD today and what to look out for to sell the XAUUSD today. But if there is any significant evolution of price action on this market structure that we didn't talk about, of course, I will be giving you updates in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platform. However, if you have any questions or you need me to do a clarification as regards to this current setup, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move on to the last financial asset on our watch list. And you can as well use that time to mark out those levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions. All right, so I see your comment, Mbuso Sierra. I hope I'm not murdering your name at all. And thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate, and I really appreciate your support too as well. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume, okay, I see Tyson Bryant's comment right now. How do GDP affect the gold? Okay, now you are thinking in correlations right now. Well, let me say this quickly. I am not a fan of correlations. I don't correlate pairs together. I only attend to pairs. I listen to the market, what the market says, and the only way the market speaks to us is the evolution of price action. So the price action tells you the psychology of what is really going on in the market. And if you have been trading for a while now, you would realize that this correlation never really works most of the time. Now, for instance, if you are trading the US assets, for instance, like the GBPUSD, the XAUUSD, and the EURUSD, for instance, and you said, okay, you see a buy setup on the EURUSD, and that means that the dollar is dropping, right? And you buy the EURUSD. That does not necessarily mean that the XAUUSD too is going to be going bullish. You need to look at what the structure, what the pattern, what the market participants in that particular market are doing as regards to the price of that asset in that market. So it's very important you look at what that market is saying about that asset. What are the people in that market saying about that asset? So personally, I'm not a fan of correlation, so I do not correlate. I only look at the market structure, see what it tells me, and I attend to that. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, please let me know what you mean, and I will be willing to be more comprehensive in my response. So thank you for your inquiry, Tyson Brian. So in the absence of no questions, we shall be moving right into the next financial asset on our watch list. All right, everyone. So the next financial asset on our watch list for today is the USDJPY. And in fact, we had a very tremendous week on the USDJPY as we have been buying this asset. And in fact, if you are taking advantage of the couple of positions we had this week, you must have been taking out with a minimum of 150 pips move when this bearish momentum began. Now, congrats to you. Congrats to you for being on standby to capitalize on that move, because it's not easy to be patient enough to be on standby to capitalize on any potential move in the market. So I give you kudos on that one. So as we get prepared for the New York and the London session today, what is it that we are looking at? But let's run through how the week started, right? Let's see what we saw at the beginning of the week that made us to buy this asset. And in fact, the USDJPY gave us the most simple setup to follow through this week. And look at what we had at the beginning of the week right here. We saw an impulsive move, of course, during the last trading day of last week, which brought price into this level. And in fact, at the beginning of the week, we saw this consolidation phase where price was confined within the 146.350 and the 146.00 area. And in fact, this gave us an insight into the level of indecision at that point. And if we consider the impulsive move that brought us into this level, there are higher chances that this formation here could evolve into a trend continuation pattern, which of course was what happened here. And you know how we treat our flat channels in this community. Whenever we sight one, we wait patiently for either the breakout or the breakdown of that range to give us an opportunity to trade. And in fact, we did that correctly, and we positioned ourselves just right above that resistance line at the 146.350. And since that moment, we have been buying the USDJPY. And remember, we also acknowledged another level right here yesterday at exactly the 147.00 area, where I said we shall be putting our buy stop order to capitalize on that uptrend continuation. Now, we have two positions running prior to the end of yesterday's trading session, and we were stopped out during the early hours of today. I think during the Asian session, we were stopped out with this bearish momentum at this point. So well done, and congratulations to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey. Now that we are going into the New York and London session today, what is going to be our plans on the USDJPY? Now, before we go into the details, I would like to run through my commentary on the USDJPY this morning. For those who are with me on my TradingView and Telegram platform, you will have gotten an update in that regard. But for those who are not, let's run through this quickly and see what our plans are. Now, on this commentary, I said after exiting the buy position with a minimum profit of 150 pips, we are now poised for another and for an anticipated uptrend continuation. As the price retraces and retests the ascending trend line with evident buy pressure, our focus remains on identifying additional buying opportunities. We will maintain this outlook as long as the price remains above the trend line, with a keen eye on potential momentum shifts only when the ascending trend line is broken. Please take note that market participants in the meantime anticipate the upcoming US ISM Services PMI alongside secondary activity indicators and employment data for momentum cues. Now let's go back in and look at this from a technical standpoint. Now, what I'm saying here is this. Now, if you look at the structure since the beginning of this week, it is quite clear that the market is very bullish. And in fact, to further emphasize the strength of the buyers in this market, we have an ascending trend line after connecting the series of higher lows. And look at how exactly on point price action tested that trend line after the bearish momentum, and what came in afterward was buy pressure, as you will see here. Now, the question at this point is, will price action respect this ascending trend line one more time to incite an uptrend continuation? That is one scenario we are going to be looking at. Or are we going to be having a scenario where the trend line will be broken, where a retest of structure will confirm a sell-off in this market? So we have a groundwork laid right now where the ascending trend line is going to be a major parameter in identifying an opportunity to trade. Now, I got some DMs this morning. I woke up, I saw some personal DMs in my box where some of you guys told me you bought at the 147.00 area after seeing buy pressure on the lower time frame. Personally, I missed out on that one. When this happened, I was still sleeping at the time this happened this morning. So I missed out on that one. But if you are taking advantage of that one, well done to you for capitalizing on that opportunity. Now, for some of us who had missed out on that opportunity, how do we intend to maximize the uptrend continuation here? Well, personally, price has already moved far away from that trend line, but I still think that we could still have some potential move back into the trend line somewhat. Now, look at this here. We have a double top structure right here where price does this. And when we have a double top structure, it's a sign that there's going to be a reversal pattern. So we saw price drop into this area. And you know, when we have a double top structure, I'm not marking this out. I just want to use this as an explanation here. So I'll be giving it a different color. Let's give it a red color. So okay, I will give it a brighter red. Okay, so we have a neckline of that double top structure. Now price is back into that area. Is it going to retest it to incite a downtrend scenario? That is one thing I'm not sure of right now, so we need to be very patient. Now in case it does that, then we want to get ready to sell if price breaks down that trend line, of course. However, there are ways to which price could evolve here in anticipation of an uptrend continuation. Now one way it could do that is retrace back into the trend line, and if we see that price is unable to break down the previous low, then at this point I want to be assuming that we're about to join an uptrend continuation. So I will be positioning myself right above that 147.450 to capitalize on that move to the upside. So if we mark that level out on our chart, we have something like this. Let me mark. Okay, so give this a red color as well. So we have this. So if price comes back into the trend line and was unable to break down the previous low, then I will be using the 147.450 as a platform to join an uptrend continuation at this point. However, if price drops below the trend line, then we shall be looking out for selling opportunities at the breakdown retest of the structure. But if price is unable to break below this 147.00 area, we shall be looking out for buying opportunities. Now, what happens if price does not come into this area? That is, price does not drop. Where is my lines? Okay, if price does not drop here and instead it continues to climb and find higher highs. Well, personally, I have a buy stop order sitting above the 147.800. This is the highest point price action has been for this week. So I have a buy stop order around that area, ready and steady, waiting for an uptrend continuation. However, if price continues and we begin to see something like higher highs and higher lows around this area, then I could look out for buying opportunities even before the breakout of that resistance line happens. And of course, if that happens, if that evolves on the chart, I will share my updates with you on both my TradingView and Telegram platform to give us an idea of what to do on that one. So these are my views here on the USDJPY. So we do want to be marking out these levels on our chart and use it as a reference point to guide our independent trading decisions for today. But one most important key thing that we want to hold here is that ascending trend line, which is very important and is going to play a major role in determining where price will be going for today and at least for the second half of the week. So let's see how price will play out in the next couple of hours, and of course I will be giving you updates in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platform. So it's on this note I would like to call it a day here. But before I do, let me take some time out to see if there are any questions as regards to the current setup. So if you have any questions you need me to clarify or expatiate on, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds. Let's see if there are any questions whatsoever. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So it has been a wonderful day. We were able to attend to three major financial assets, which include the XAUUSD, USDJPY, and of course the GBPUSD, where we were able to identify simple setups using basic tools such as trend lines, key levels, and chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movement of this asset, hereby giving us valuable information to position ourselves for today's trading session. And thank you guys for staying around, for staying true to the end of the session, and I'm very confident that we are well equipped to take advantage of potential trading opportunities today. And I just dropped in the comment section the link to the XAUUSD live monitoring window. For those who don't know, the XAUUSD live monitoring window is a platform that was born a couple of months ago. I think we've been running this for about 7 weeks right now, and this is where we come together to monitor the XAUUSD live right here on this channel. So it always kickstarts 5 to 10 minutes into the New York session. So I encourage you to be part of that session, and let's join and be part of the real-time action on the XAUUSD. So click the link, click on the notify me button so that you can get notified as soon as we come online. So thank you guys, I really do appreciate your time. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the comment sections, and please don't forget to support this project. The only way and the cheapest way you can support this project is by clicking on the like button. If you have found this content useful and helpful in making your independent trading decisions for today, please support this project by clicking on the like button. Your likes are valuable to me, and in fact it also helps the algorithm to push this video to a wider audience of traders who may find this content beneficial too. Thank you in advance for doing so, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platform as we continue to monitor price action. I see your comment, Princess. Thank you for the compliments, and I look forward to seeing more of you. Do have a wonderful evening to you all. Bye-bye.